Hello, everyone, and welcome to In the Making, a series of virtual conversations from North Bennett Street School where we connect with a range of new voices, fields, and perspectives. My name is Kristen Odell. I'm a staff member and host of In the Making here at NBSS. America's first trade school, North Bennett, was founded in 1881 by visionary educator, philanthropist, and suffragette Pauline Agassiz Shaw. Today, we're known globally for our range of programs and courses in hand-based craft and trades, which help folks achieve meaningful careers or even just learn some new skills. We also partner with like-minded organizations from schools and museums to nonprofits and community service orgs. In our ever-growing virtual lives, we seek to have our hands working in unison with our passion for traditional craft and trade skills, which brings us to today's program, In the Making with Kara Weaves. We're joined today by Chitra Gopalakrishnan, co-founder and senior art director of Kara Weaves, an all-women partnership connecting traditional weaving cooperatives with the modern marketplace. Chitra is a graphic designer and painter who currently teaches graphic design at San Diego State University and is on faculty at the Prison Arts Collective, also based in California. Today, we will discuss the role of marketing and design in reimagining ancient trades and techniques for the current consumer, the beauty and symbolism of a maker's mark and how Chitra has made it her mission to introduce aesthetic imperfections as a hallmark of handcrafted products. Chitra will guide us through the model of Kara Weaves through a slideshow presentation, and we'll follow that with an on-the-spot design challenge tutorial of an object. So I'm going to turn this over to you, Chitra.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining this brief talk about our work. We're so excited to showcase our work with the North Bennett Street School. Thank you so much, Sarah Turner, for starting this conversation. And thank you so much, Kristen, for this wonderful introduction. I'm going to start, as we all do with Zoom, with a screen share, which everyone is familiar with at this point. So my name is Chitra. I'm calling in from San Diego. And I am the co-owner of a company called Kara Weaves. I see my co-founder is here on the call, and I see one of my colleagues is on the call too. I'm so excited that they're logging in from India. So I'm going to start screen share, and here we go. I'm going to tell you or talk about what we do. So this is us, Kara Weaves. We are a sustainable manufacturing social enterprise based out of southern India in a state called Kerala. And we work exclusively with artisan cooperatives. And I'm here to talk about what that business model is. So what is Kara Weaves? This is us. We are an experiment that started about 13 years ago, and we exist at the exact middle, at the exact overlap of handloom cooperatives, fair trade or ethical trade practices, and good design and branding. And the overlap of that Venn diagram is where we exist. This is me. I'm the co-founder of this. And this is Indu Menon, who also is my mom. We started this together in 2007. She was just moving. This was her retirement side hustle, and I joined in as as a thing that she was moving back to Kerala after never having lived there and decades spent working and teaching in many parts of the world, notably Ahmedabad and Kuwait. And we started Kara Weaves together in 2007 as what we felt was a direct response to the beautiful craftsmanship in our home state. Asha Menon, also more popularly known as the film actress Revati, is also our partner in this, and she's also a social activist and an incredibly talented film director, and brings a lot of energy to our team. Sulochana Menon, who's a fabric expert, she brings in the traditional knowledge, the connection to another way of living, of the history of this textile. And she also is my grandma. So she knows stuff. She knows everything. So this is us right now. What do we make? We make home textiles, things for the home. We make resort wear, things for the body. And we make children's textiles, things for little kids, undefeatable textiles for the undefeatable spirit of children. That's what we do. And how is multi-purpose sustainable? That's something that I'm really excited to share with you, and also talk about one of the core ideas of what we do, or one of the core driving forces of what we do. Multi-purpose lends itself to sustainability because this one textile, what I just told you in the previous, sorry, I just went back a few slides accidentally. But these three products, right, they're all made out of the same exact textile. I have it here in my hand here. I'm wearing another variant of it. Why is that sustainable? Is many things can be made out of it. And it's in this form that it exists. It's a rectangle, but it can be used to wrap a baby in, to be at the beach with, to wrap your hair in, to take to the gym, to set up at your table. It has a life that is probably as long as, at least me, I'm going to say easily half a human life, given, if not more, depending on how you care for it. But one of the reasons is less, it doesn't, the chance that it ends up in the trash is greatly reduced by the fact that in all stages of its life, from being a freshly woven fancy textile that you're seeing here on the left, to a dirt rag that will be used, behind here in my painting studio, or in my house, or in all over the home, it extends the life of the product. So if you can design for multi-purpose products, you are automatically contributing to a sustainable lifestyle. This is the product. This is Tanga, who is one of the many women in our village. And just like my grandma and all of the other women in our village, men and women in our village, you will see her also with this torta fabric. It's traditionally called the torta. She's wrapped it on her shoulder here, as you can see, as a sarong. That's one of the uses of it. But if she's out in the sun, she'll use it to cover her head. When my grandma's stories are that they caught fish with it in the ponds because of the gauzy nature of it. It lets the water through and you can catch fish. You can use it to keep the babies sheltered. You can use it to wipe the sweat from your face. You can use it to protect yourself in the sun. After a bath, so many different uses. And so this is how the textile exists in its traditional form. The edges are unsewn. It's basically straight off the loom. And here's another image on the left is, the textile in how it exists. And we have just used graphic design per se. The job of graphic design is to help you reimagine anything, whether you can reimagine the way, I don't know, like how you feel about yourself. You can reimagine the way how you feel about a car or a pair of shoes or whatever it is. Here we have helped reimagine this textile into all these products, from resort wear, beach mats, towels, pouches, sarongs, bathrobes. I mean, so many different products. And that's using a core design principle, is that if it allows itself to be used that way, if it has the ability to exist that way, you can create a context for it to exist in. And so if that applies to you, to convince you to change your brand of toothpaste, it can apply to convince you to buy or buy and support a traditional type of craftsmanship. How is each piece designed? This is a small drawing that I made about our exact process. Everything about our company and our products is process-based. That's what makes it stand apart from an industrial manufactured product. We design it in our studio. We send the design to the weaving co-ops. We receive samples and colors. We do a quality check. We place the final orders at the co-ops. The fabric is sent to our studio, and the products are tailored at our studio or at other tailoring cooperatives. We attach these trims and tags, and we do another round of quality check, and then it's sent out to people who want it. And having this kind of breakdown of our process greatly helps our customers know that it's not the one-day shipping or whatever, like the instant product that we're so used to. I mean, which has its own place, but if we're supporting something with people who are involved in making it, that's how it's made. I have some videos here of the pre-looming process. This is Manichetan at our local cooperative. He went to school with my dad. So this is one of the closest cooperatives to where we stay, but we also collaborate with a number of other co-ops around the state. Here he's wrapping up the spool after one of the pre-looming processes. Here he's weaving. I mean, he's one of many weavers at this cooperative and one of many weavers that we work with. There's a number of women weavers as well. And they are involved and they interchangeably switch stations between, a piece. That's one of the reasons why we don't exactly have one person's name per product who made it, because it's a cooperative and they go in and out and share each other's work. This here is another pre-looming process of spinning the yarn.
Chitra, can I ask a question? How many cooperatives are you working with?
We are currently working with about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe.
Wow. And
5,
each one...
but it's a number that it changes back and forth depending on how an order is going or how many orders we have at a time. And the cooperatives also work with other government, the regular orders from the government. And now they've also started taking on other private companies who work with them. But give or take 5 or 6, depending on orders. And at each of those, we may have anywhere from 2 to 15, 20 weavers at a time. It really depends. It depends on the flow of orders coming in. And this is another infographic on just the real breakdown of the hand weaving process. I insisted on making this because I feel like it seems simple and you can push videos on your website, but it is a time-based thing, and sometimes it rains a lot and the thing takes a while to dry, and that causes a production delay. And we are very keen for our buyers to know that is why it took a little bit time, because it actually rained and there was an actual event that kept that product from from the process from going as planned. One of the other side benefits of this is the energy impacts of manufacturing or producing in a very traditional format are very minimal, because it is dependent on the natural weather patterns and things like that. How do we build this? So we're not working with mass manufacturing or factories. We are working with cooperatives and we are working with people. We are a people-forward organization. And more importantly, we are a women-forward organization. We are a partnership of women, and our organization, we have unintentionally and now more intentionally hired women with the goal of giving voice, giving agency, giving empowerment to the women in our local community, whether they are part of our office staff, as you can see on the right, or women at the weaving cooperatives. Here are some images. On the right here is my mom here with a bag she's holding a bag that one of our collaborators gifted us, the KEA, which is the Copenhagen Institute of Design. They had come to do a little workshop with us. And we did a number of collaborative projects developing garments with their students and graduates. And this is the middle picture is the women in our office, our team, working on various activities, whether it's sewing, edges, packaging, etc. And here are some more weaving center images.
Can I toss out another question to you, Chitra?
Sure.
Is the process that the textiles are woven in all of these cooperatives, and then in that last image you showed of in your facility, that's where the stitching and the product
Yeah,
is actually
so
being.
we don't have, so the weaving doesn't happen in our team, you know. Our office is designing products, working with clients, facilitating orders, shipping, coordinating, and doing a little bit of the finishing of it, whether it's
Yeah.
stitching or, yeah, the edges. But most of the time, even in how we design or how it's built off or cut off the loom, we are trying to be, because we know it takes so long to make this textile, we are hyper vigilant about the waste generated. So most of the times, if an order is of a certain type of towel, we will ensure that the weaving happens with just a cut in the middle and it's ready to go, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's maybe minor fringing or edges, which is what our team does. But the weaving happens at the co-op. So, and those are, like I said, they are, you know, there's two that's right near our office in our hometown in Kanyamattam, and there are others in other parts of the state. Does that answer the question?
I'm just looking at my dish towels that I bought, and I was just wondering all the trim work and how you, you know, rough edges, sewn edges, hemmed edges, if that was done in your facility as opposed to in the in the cooperatives.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So the trims and edges are done in our facility unless we are working on a wholesale order with a much bigger number, and then we have another cooperative, another women's industrial co-op that is near one of our weaving centers in northern Kerala, and we directly send the products to them, and they do the trimming or cutting or sewing or in a much larger, if there's a larger number to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And so here I have this really important slide back in 2012. So we started off doing a lot of retail on our online store. We were written about by a blog in Brooklyn that's kickstarted our business, and we went hardcore into, you know, customer B2C platform. Basically, we were selling to customers for about 6 or 7 years. And then we did this collaboration. On the left, you'll see a team of women from IBM who worked with us for 4 weeks. There was a person from Germany, America, and Spain, 3 women, who helped us develop the core of our branching up to wholesale, as well as putting all our certifications, helping us with the paperwork for our fair trade certification and a number of other, you know, organizational structuring. That was a big thing that happened to us in 2012 that really helped us launch, you know, or attend trade shows and be able, because we are a small organization and we wanted to work with other businesses who had a broader customer outreach. Because if we were to take on the end-to-end customer work, it is a very intensive job for an extremely small team. On the right here, in the back next to me, I'm the one in the red, and there's the woman, there's 2 women next to me, Jalen in the front and Jessica Custer in the back. Jalen Adley and Jessica Custer Jessica Custer stayed with us for 4 months to work. She was part of another organization called MBAs Without Borders, which was a branch of an organization called Pixera Global, based in DC. So she worked with us for 4 months to really help us try to figure out our price structure, which is a huge mystery if you're coming into this like we were from a design and anthropology background. So figuring out what is the right price structure, what is the, again, tweaking out our wholesale model, figuring out you know, systems to help us establish a streamlining of our you know, making at the co-op, checking in our office and shipping to our customers, streamlining that aspect. So these were 2 very significant moments in how we transitioned to wholesale. Here's another image of the yarn. I mean, the process is incredibly photogenic and incredibly beautiful, and I cannot highlight this enough when I talk about how you know, we portray handmade products. It's not just a product, but there is the process of it is in as a customer, as a consumer, it's something that's often overlooked, and it's something that I really hope more people push, you know, and share and showcase. How do we find our buyers? So Instagram, I mean, as you now know, I mean, back when we started in 2007, Instagram was in its nascency. I mean, maybe it was there, I don't remember. Blogs were a big thing back then, but we have had, I mean, we've been working with Instagram. social media, of course, because we are very keen as a small women-owned organization to talk about the people making our products, the people using our products, the transparency in our manufacturing, and most importantly, how we are always here to make this a replicable model for anyone else who would like to create the same system for their community. That's something that's if social media is one thing, trade shows is another thing. And now with COVID and, in general, the model of trade shows has moved online, which I would support hugely, because having done a lot of trade shows, I can tell you it's a lot of work, and it's exhausting, as a small business to attend trade shows. To showcase at trade shows.
Mm-hmm.
And then the places that our work has been featured. This was the screenshot from that very first write-up about our work that happened in the summer of 2008, which basically we had a PDF website or whatever that was. I think I hand-coded this website with a very clunky payment gateway and everything that was, pre how now we have Shopify. Now we have
pre Squarespace.
Now we have these content management platforms that make it so easy for anyone to set up a business. But this was our first site, and this was our first feature, and this basically opened the floodgates to just getting eyes on our work, in the beginning.
Can you trace that to one person that just
caught this
website?
I can trace it to one person and one brand, Grace Bonney of Design Sponge. I have told her in over the years about how that impact has been. But we have, after this particular feature, we knew the impact of it because we were sold out and back ordered in a matter of weeks, maybe not even a week. It was less than a week. And that was the very first time. And we would wake up in the morning, because of the time difference, we'd wake up in the morning to 20 or 50 or 100 emails of orders per day for about 8 or 10 days. And we were exhausted and excited and very freaked out, in the beginning because of what, and then of course there were a lot of business queries and B2B collaborations, which at the time we were not ready for, but we tried our best. And later when we collaborated, we worked with IBM and Pixera to help us, be at those platforms, and then trade shows and so on. But initially, I think, having an organic growth from this one article, and we have asked the people who have reached out to us as to how they found us. And at the time, a lot of people who reached out to us was through this one blog post. So this was the early days of blogging as well.
Yes. So timing is always so clutch. But then the second question I have about your early days and that early Design Sponge blog capture, what was your front-loaded selling point? Was it traditional weaving? Was it handmade? Or was it environmental process?
It had to do with a team of women, and it had to do with handmade. And it had to do, I think, those were the core ideas that they talked about, and the minimal modern aesthetic, which in this case is actually the traditional aesthetic of textiles from traditionally made textiles in Kerala are actually of this aesthetic.
But they happen to arc right there and be sort of on trend at that moment. I'm just trying to think of the very first capture.
Sustainable textiles were not trendy at the time. This particular use of, having those Turkish towels or the thin towels was not at all trendy at the time. We were still in the age of the fluffy towels. We are much more, we are able to understand the Fuda towels and the thinner towels now. But what pushed this was the branding, the colorways, and the fact that you could use it for so many different things, So we didn't push the towel because we were like, okay, if you're not comfortable using that in the bath, don't do that. You can also use it for a whole bunch of other things, like from scarves or throws or whatever. But the multi-purpose aspect was definitely there, but it had to do with the transparent, manufacturing process. And then what I like to think is our feverish customer service thing about following up and making sure that every single customer knew where their product was at every given time. It was hugely exhausting for us in the beginning because we are coming into it as fans of the textiles, as also our end customers ourselves. So we know the things that we care about. So replying promptly to customers and things like those small things that get lost in a flurry of, I don't know, like 50 orders a day speed for a very small new company. But we still insisted on somehow making it through those days. I might have another slide on
customer service wins.
Sorry?
Great customer service always wins.
It always does, because it's the last memory they have of the interaction that they have with you. And if that was, if you were mean, I mean, why
right.
would you back? And then the other thing, we also do sales. We also do, another way of, like I said, this is tying into that good customer service is how we find our buyers, is also word of mouth from customers having had good experiences and sharing that. And some press coverage that we had. This was, I think, House Beautiful. So all of these were subsequently, after the Design Sponge thing, we were written about in, I think, House Beautiful, Better Homes and Gardens, Martha Stewart Living, and quite a few amazing platforms. Apartment Therapy, I can't remember. Like, there's a whole list. We've listed it on our site, but it's just that initial influx. This was that exact summer when that first order came, and everyone in our family ended up packing and shipping orders. That's my dad, that's my mom, that's my aunt, and my mom's friend, and we're all shipping orders, because it just became a thing where you're here to visit us, come ship some orders with us, because we are suddenly blindsided with this influx.
So while this picture's up, let me just throw out a question that I had saved for later. What was your tactile experience with these textiles? I mean, it must have come from your childhood, obviously, and that it was something like this was a staple in your life. And
anybody from Kerala, if you ask them about the torta, they will know what it is. And anyone. And so, which is why it's always a weird moment when we meet other people from Kerala at, anywhere else in the world, and we tell them what we do, and they're like, what? Like, you have a business that works with that? Like, and you sell to who again? Like, it's just because it's such a innate part of a specific culture, thing that you've grown up with, but thing that you've probably overlooked. And
connecting those dots between where you are and your role in sort of bridging the gap of the company with your graphic design skills and branding. That's fascinating to me, is your tactile relationship with the weavings next to, butt up next to your designing and modern graphics.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that I'm actually touching upon that in a little bit, and how that goes full circle, and how it makes sense to me on a daily basis, basically. Graphic design is definitely a huge part of how we see this product, or how we have grown our company. This is from a few images from some of our trade shows. On the left bottom image here is Malika, who is on this call right now. This was her at our show. We did 2 shows in Berlin for the Berlin Fashion Week. And some of the products in that lower left side image are from our collaboration with the KEA, the Copenhagen School of Design. And then on the bottom right is me at probably my most exhausted, because I had a 4-month-old at the New York gift show, and Malika and our team were helping me do the install. I couldn't have the baby with me during the install, because the trade show installations have forklifts and babies are not allowed. So I had to rush out to nurse, and it was a crazy time. But we somehow made it happen. Again, a group of women is the strong, our secret superpower, as I like to call it, because we understand what it's like to do this. But this is our general overview of our booths in various trade shows. There is an equal component of highly curated, photographed and styled images, but at the same time, there's an equal component of hand-drawn stuff and tangible, touchable, this idea of imperfection, or the idea of human-made aspect, where the logos are often, I just draw it directly onto the surfaces. We have, like in the top image on the right, I have this whole yarn installation, because it added, the actual texture and the slubs in the yarn. And we talk about that at the trade shows, and we talk about that even after the fact. Who are some of our buyers? This is just a small collection of some of the ones that you may know about, but over the years we've had it's been such an honor to work with so many incredible brands around the world, and have them share our story and see them reimagine the product in their ways. In fact, one of the favorites is a little store in Boston that I told you about called Practice Space, the collaborative space that was there until I think last year.
Yes.
But the way they marketed this was, they marketed our textiles as useful rectangles. And to me, that was the top. That was like we peaked in description and peaked in usability, sustainability, multi-purpose, and letting customers do what they wanted with it.
How did they recommend using this useful rectangle?
So that's the thing. They said, wherever you might need a piece of fabric that is hardworking and child-proof or whatever, child-safe, you can use it. So tea towels, table textiles, active textiles for sporting, for backpacking, all sorts of different ways. So they left it up to the customer, but the fact that they called it useful rectangles lets one dream and imagine ways that you could bring it into your life. Here are just some what I like to think of as fun and weird graphics that I like to build for different trade show invites. For our very first New York trade show, I built the skyline of Manhattan with our textiles because it felt like a very big deal at the time. And even now, just the fact that we could do these trade shows and take our humble, previously unknown underdog textile and, as I imagine it, cover the skyline of New York with it. And here on the right side is a drawing of how we come up with products, and this is just a random sketch that I made about what we could come up with. And this is a photograph of one of my friends at the beach wearing one of the garments. We made a roulette wheel for Vegas because that seemed like a hilarious, fun thing to do. So our brand is equally in the space of colorful, fun, and experimental as it is in the space of goofy and unpretentious. It's whatever that we want, the accessibility to it. It is a premium textile and it is a premium, strong product, but our branding as a maker brand is accessibility, is approachability. We're not we are. So we like to, the approachability is something, and the playfulness is something that's a huge part of it. And these are some of the amazing collaborations, and this is the part of our company that I think me and my co-founder here, Indu Menon, the both of us are so excited about, is not only just buyers from different parts of the world, but the number of students and the number of interns and young people who seek out business advice, the number of collaborations, guest lectures, explaining how we work, creating a replicable model. The community that has built around us is something that has been the driving force. So the second picture on the left side, the middle picture, is from our work last year at the Kochi's first design week. I was interviewed by a French podcast. One of the pictures at the bottom, the middle picture, and then the rest are all with our buyers, our students, students who work with us, who do projects, research projects with us. We have and a lot of local colleges as well as schools in other parts of the world. This here is where the story comes full circle. So I am actually trained as a graphic designer, and I'm trained I got my first MFA from a school in France, and graphic design in France invariably revolves around luxury marketing, and luxury branding is something that I'm fully trained on and fully conditioned over this 5-year program that I did there. It's an integral part of when you think of France and its heritage and culture. Luxury branding is invariably an integral part of that, and I'm trained at the school in France. And so when I started Cooperatives shortly after I graduated in 2005 and 2007, we started Cooperatives. I was coming fresh out of this having worked also after that with a number of luxury brands in India as well as in France. My take on this was that, you can use convincing graphic design, you can use convincing marketing and branding to market the heck out of, or to create this universe of desire, of this universe of want, of aspiration. And we use it all the time, whether it comes to shoes or to bags or to watches or to jewelry, in the luxury branding universe. And Cooperatives is basically that. We have just switched gears and focused and used the same strategies of creating aspiration, desire, and this urge to want the product. We've just done that with a previously unknown or underdog fabric. This slide is up here because so this is we sent in a lot of textiles and a lot of we created custom linens for a wedding in France for a friend of mine. She is also the one of the senior art directors at Louis Vuitton in Paris. And to me, that made it kind of, but also the textile, the way we designed it, the way we packaged it, these were for favors or whatever it is. And here's his image of this Provençal wedding in the south of France. It was so beautiful. And it's very French, but at the same time, the textile is it's from Kerala,
Yeah, that's an amazing arc right there. Louis Vuitton to,
yeah.
That's incredible.
But it just comes down to branding, right? It comes down to how you are made to think about it, how you are made to want it, like the new iPhone or whatever. Like, you will wake up at 5 a.m. to pre-order that thing because just the beauty of the device, the way it's photographed, the way it shows. So there's and you can do that. If you can do that for an iPhone or toothpaste or shoes or whatever it is, you can definitely do that with artisan handcrafted products. It's just about taking that equation and switching it to a different product. So that's why this slide is up here, and that's it. Thank you.
That was wonderful. Thank you, Chitra.
Of course.
I think the next, you keep your screen sharing. Are you ready for our design challenge?
Yes, sure.
Okay. I'm just going to give a quick description of this tool here. This is it's not a home good object like these towels or any textiles or something that you would, it's just not a home good. It's a tool. This is a Delrin Folder that is made by Mitch Gundrum, who is a bookbinding student of ours. And just to give you the backstory of what Delrin is, it's a supplemental material to a traditional bone folder that would be used to crease paper in bookbinding. And this is a non-reactive material, making it preferable in conservation labs. And so it's kind of an odd object compared to your branding of your material, but I think that's kind of cool. So let's see what you do.
So I wanted to pull up, this is the image that you sent me, and I can see that you have the object. It's a slightly heavy-ish, it has a good weight to it, and it is pretty flat, right? Dimensionality.
It's pretty flat, yeah.
Okay. So, one of the things I was thinking about is just, again, dovetailing back into this conversation we have about how this is presented to us. How are we looking at it? And the camera is an integral part of how we understand that. The photography of it, the styling of it is a huge part of it. I'm just going to take you through a few images of luxury brands. And now bear with me here as we do this weird journey into, high fashion and back here.
Are you going to make these luxury Delrin folders?
Well, why not? I mean, what is the way that we say here? Go big or go home.
Yes, exactly.
So this is, one of my favorite brands is Miyake. Look at this thing, look at the way this bag is photographed right now. If you photograph this in on flat on a random table where it was probably getting made or whatever it is, versus the way that it's probably been held up with some strings and then they have later on in Photoshop gotten rid of those things or the dimensionality of it, the colors in it. Here's another one. This is a watch. It's from what I gather, it's probably glass or some kind of heavy
Acrylic,
plastic
yeah.
or something. But the way that we are looking at it, we are right up close, our face is against it. We're looking at the minutest construction, the minutest detail, which may or may not be evident when you're actually using it. It's at your arm's length. I don't know if you're actually staring at your watch like this all the time, but it's there. It's there. That's the way we're looking at it, This one, I mean, I'm sure you all know this, but it's the Louboutin, Christian Louboutin shoes. Just the way you are, the monumentality of that photography, the way it's like, again, a shoe is going to be on the ground, it's on your foot, you are barely ever looking at the underside of your shoe, but this brand has built a universe around the underside of that shoe and the recognizability of that, and so the photograph here is so intentional in that the perspective of that photograph, here's I don't know what these are, they're probably rings or something, Chanel. So the detail in it, the way it's photographed, the way that it's so it looks like a giant object, but it's actually a tiny little ring. Here we have one of their bags, I guess. One of the things that I am really interested in is turning it up to 11 and thinking about what are the products or what are the objects that in our culture, what is, according to some people, very important and very luxurious and very at the edge of like what everybody wants, which is usually, it falls in the ballpark of luxury or technology. It's either one of those things, like the Tesla car or the iPhone or whatever this shoe is, it's in that category. And so can we use that same metric? Can we use that same strategy to review something that has actual hands that have made it, just like everything else? But and I'm not saying you market the Delrin folders the way that you market a Louboutin shoe or anything, but I'm saying you use that strategy of showing the process of it, showing the videos on how things are made, showing the detail, photographing it in a way that it is monumental. And, in this case, I love this shape because it is, so what I've been doing is I've just been doodling on Photoshop, but, so we have this, this is the image that you sent me, right? Approximately, I've just gotten rid of the background and I just have it on a white background.
And I will just throw out here that, it's obvious we're missing that this is an action tool. So we're missing the action in this. It's just like a bag would be. How you said the bag is photographed, falling, whereas it would in your bedroom or something when you get home. So we're definitely missing that action.
Yeah. No, I understand. But I'm saying, like, even when you photograph an object, right? Putting it in context, thinking of the colors, thinking of the pristine white and this really beautiful black. How do those evoke certain things, So if you're bringing in, I'm just playing with colors here, but like, what do these colors make you feel? What do they, like, if you were marketing to a super young, super like peppy, poppy brand, you would go for like, something like this. And then you're suddenly like, oh my God, like, what is this fun little object?
What is that? What can I use it for?
Yeah. And then, like you go more moody. And so I'm going to take it down a bit here. Here you have like more of the rustic and the kind of the idea of like, ooh, this is, something, some kind of a, what do we say? A heritage object, something with some tradition, stories, etc. So, those, so one of the, one of the things that I would highly recommend is looking up John Berger's Ways of Seeing. It's a book also, but these days, because we're all just staring at our screens, he's done an amazing YouTube. It's a BBC mini series, which is all on YouTube. It's like 4 short series, but it's so insightful into thinking into how advertising, marketing, branding make us think of certain things, and colors, definitely colors, right? the interaction of colors, the way that they create mood, the way that they create, and none of what we saw here with these brands, right? None of these things are random. They are extremely intentional. There's no reason this shoe was not photographed in a colorful background, because the goal was for us to remember that, oh yeah, these are the Louboutins with the red sole, so there is no other color in this, because it's intentionally talking about, whatever, like, and that red sole thing, if you had not marketed it or branded it so in a certain way and through history so much, we would not be we would not have noticed it, or we could have easily overlooked that detail, but it became one of their USPs. So that's where I'm just here to talk about just ways that you are creating the context for it, the way that the end customer will want it. They will, that invoking desire, which is what luxury or technology brands do. And it is 100% possible to do that with artisan-made, handmade products, which have this rich history of process and I'm having fun with the slider,
Yes.
but just this idea of like where it's
as you're playing with the color, I mean, I'm thinking of, pop culture. I'm thinking of the TV show Schitt's Creek, which everybody watches, and how the main character, they're all wearing black and white. And so just that in itself, I mean, black and white is such sort of like a, it's one of those things that you either live in black and white, you love black and white, and you have it everywhere. And I could see that being just black and white, market that to somebody. And
yeah, definitely. And then, to sort of, and then they also look extremely good in any other color. The black and white has this ability to make every other color pop and make themselves pop in the context of other colors. But, photographing it used obviously as a tool, but also just by itself, if it were an object, if you had it on your, I don't know, coffee table or whatever, just the beauty of it. Like if it were a thing that we're holding down, I don't know, paper towels or something, but just the form of it, the beauty of it, the shape, the texture, and going into the details, like I would definitely, it's never, zooming in to photograph products, it's surprising the world that you come into, the world of minute details, which again, we've seen with luxury brands that they do that all the time. And it's not something the user will be sitting and staring at the stitches of your Vuitton bag or whatever that is, but you are kind of drawn to that, like that examining things from up close. And that's where the detail is, and that's where the imperfection is. And that's the chance to talk about the fact that if this were made in a factory, you do not have imperfections. Right. They are, tying it back to our like main topic about how do you market imperfection as a mark of handmade. It's unique signature, and the fact that in this world of fast fashion, fast manufacturing, unethical manufacturing, and exploitative manufacturing, the fact that you have a story behind it that is 100% certified, but also visible, and the makers in it are equal parts, stakeholders in the whole process, So
one thing that I always get stuck on is training the masses or the consumer, the bulk of the consumers in the world, that imperfection does not mean a lack of structural integrity. Like there's a misconception.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not. No, it's a mark of the making process, and it's the warmth of it. It's the fact that we intentionally chose to keep that in and not throw it out in our QC process, because that is that is how we know that this product came from an actual person who made it and was not manufactured off of a machine.
Right. One tie back to one of the programs that we teach here is the violin making program. The instructor, Roman, he has mentioned in the past that I don't know if he would say encourages, but he finds a thumbprint in the the shellac finish on an instrument as a valuable thing, not as an imperfection or a mistake. It's like, it is the thing,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's absolutely true. Yeah. And I mean, and then the other thing that, ties back to in the way that we organize, or we built our organization, is we did not build, or we did not reinvent the wheel. We looked to our community to see what was existing in terms of resources. And these cooperatives that we work with were set up by the government of India in the 60s as a way to promote rural arts and crafts and skill development. So it's something that we harnessed that existed there, but also we ensured that our organizations remained rural, so that it created more impact in areas that that are usually overlooked, when we talk about development and we talk about outreach. So so that's something. And I see there's one of there's a question here about.
Yes. Can we just stop the screen share, and we'll ask some questions?
Sure. Yeah. Totally.
Thank you for that design challenge. I love it. Thank you.
I hope it was helpful.
Yeah. So a question from a guest is, what is your recruitment process for the weavers, women you work with, and do you offer professional development training opportunities?
Yeah, so the weavers that we work with, like I said, they are all members of local cooperatives, and their membership involves, not only training opportunities, but also they have an equal say in the wage structure, the price of products. They're a voting member in a co-op. So co-op is not a factory or a manufacturing unit per se. A co-op is something that, in the true sense of the word cooperative, every single member of it is a voting member in all aspects of how it's run, and their co-op presidents take rotations. It's the members who did themselves, when they achieve seniority or something, they are the presidents. So we collaborate with the co-ops to develop these products. So we are one of their many clients, actually, who work with them. The main client that they work with is the Kerala government that commissions, gets products made by them. But in our team, yes, we do. We've had a team of women for about, our first employee started with us when we started our company, or maybe 1 or 2 years, so close to a decade, maybe a little bit more than a decade. And yeah, that's something that we always offer in terms of whether it's technology training or whether it's even within the skills of what they do, simple management training of once they have worked with us for a few years, overseeing the processes that are going on in our office. And if they're interested or they have some acumen or show some interest towards technology, we, get them on board in how we keep our accounts, or, basic software training or anything like that. Okay, and the thing about having a women-owned and women-run organization in a rural and patriarchal, like most places, society, is that I feel like it gives at least I like to think that it gives the women in our office and our, who we work with, some sense of agency and some sense of authority in maybe a limited part of their life, but in that part, it's 100% them. And we support that, whether it comes to complications with, like as a woman, you are usually the primary caregiver of your children or other people in your family. So allowing the leeway, allowing flexible working hours, allowing the possibility of bringing their kids in whenever they want, if they don't have school, etc. We are mothers and women ourselves, so we understand that, and we feel, I think that has to be the norm, but it's not, unfortunately. And so yeah, that's
a reality right now for in this country, especially with the pandemic and homeschooling and women that work. The workforce has dropped off for women.
Yes, because that's significantly it's just a mindset, right, that the work of women. And I feel like, and yes, so for us right now, the COVID lockdown impacted us severely as well, but we, froze our work for about a little bit more than a month or so, and then slowly brought back small teams to work distantly, rotation of people to come like every other day or something. And, because it was a pandemic, obviously everyone understood, whoever, understood what the issues were. But But now we're, slowly back to somewhat workable conditions, but we're trying to keep as much of it, contactless and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question on my end, and all of our guests, if you have questions just down at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you can type something into the Q&A box. But a question that I have for our community here and students in general that are going off to start businesses, it's kind of a chicken and egg question and touches back to what I asked you earlier. What did you front load with as far as basically what came first? What was your original intent? Building a women-run business, selling ethically sourced products, or in reinvigorating traditional trades? Like, which came first? And why that's important to me for our students is what a maker sets out to accomplish in a business plan, and then all of the dominoes that naturally follow.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And that again ties back to this conversation that I've been hearing here in the United States this past summer, but also, I think across the board, we have been talking about this in India for a while now, but also, what is my role as a graphic designer, or my mom, who was retiring at the time as an anthropologist, social anthropologist, we talked about, she was moving back to Kerala to our village. And I think for us, the primary impulse to start Cooperatives was not the fact that the artisans making the work were, finding a lack of income or support or any of those things. Because in Kerala, when a lot of our artisans, they were not teaching these skills to their children. Their children were IT engineers and working in Bangalore and wherever else. And so it was, for us, it was not about the issue of the artisan being in dire straits, which is a valid issue in many other parts of the world. I completely agree. In our particular case, it was about the craft form that was going to disappear with that generation. So we thought, this would hugely suck if this textile disappeared, because as a Malayali, I mean, that's an integral part of, it's like fish fry or whatever,
Right.
or anyone in Kerala, or but so it's like, what is Kerala without the torta, and what is Kerala without that whole group of people who know how to make it, and they disappeared. So for us, it came down to that. But also, to me personally, it came the conversation came down to this thing that we've been talking about this year in the US, is the who in the room is the most vulnerable. Is your work, is your design supporting that and designing for the vulnerable? And in this case, it's the craft form. But in that, it eventually ties into the artisans who were in a professional depression. And so and also, to be honest, Christian, when we started this, they were in such a bad shape in terms of, the innovation having absolutely stalled over the decades. And the fact that they were weaving, but they were like, we're not in need of this financially, but they love the art form. So they're weaving just for that reason. Mm-hmm. But so for us, the risk was, what do you call that? The risk was, the stakes were really low, because we told ourselves, if we collapsed and if we failed as a business or an idea, because we hadn't had a model to work with, we said, okay, we're just going to try and experiment. We told ourselves, if we fail, at least we would have tried and failed, but nobody would be significantly impacted because they were already giving up the trade anyway.
Right.
So that was our initial impulse to get into it, but it had everything to do with the technique that was disappearing.
You have referenced today and before tapping into your own community. Can you get specific about what you mean about that? When we talked about it a while back, we were talking about Inman Square specifically, and that sort of thriving ecosystem of creates. I know it's so dreamy. Yes. And I always think of that, like tapping into your own community. So can you be specific about what you mean by that?
So, and so that's another thing, we are makers and designers, and we are existing in our little studios or in our little silos, and we have self-doubt about the way that we come across, or about our ability to take something to the next level. We are hesitant about those conversations, but I would 100% encourage your students and, anyone on this call is to reach out to the local businesses, to the local makers, to the local industries in your area, and see how your skills could be applied to what they do. And it may not be evident at first. It may not even make any sense at first, but do that willful suspension of disbelief, which is a word phrase I learned at Cranbrook, but use that as, imagine a possibility where you could collaborate your skills together. So my simple answer is collaboration over competition. But the thing about reaching out to people who make things in your community, who may have a need for your skill, but they don't know it, you don't know it, unless like our origin story is so weird in that sense, because my mom is an anthropologist, a social anthropologist, and I'm a graphic designer, and technically our worlds don't actually overlap. And Cooperatives is a textile weaving cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
She had researched women weavers of South India in the 80s when I was a kid. She had co-authored a book on that. And this whole thing came out of, just revisiting those weavers she had interviewed in the 80s and finding that those co-ops had almost disappeared. And then it came down to that question that, like, what can we do, or can we do something? And I mean, I would definitely encourage your students to not hesitate to collaborate with local organizations.
Mm-hmm.
There will be, or there may be things that you're not aware of. You may be a longtime native or resident of that place, but there may be this, this part of manufacturing or culture or something in that area that, and sometimes we don't know this unless we, actually put ourselves in the uncomfortable space of asking.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I'm thinking while you're saying this, is that, this does tie into imperfections and embracing the imperfections. That is connected to being flexible with and malleable with your skills. I mean, especially the culture that we live in now. I mean, finding work,
yes,
being comfortable, living comfortably, affordably, you really do have to be malleable and flexible and keep your open eyes to seek out those unusual situations.
Yes. And especially right now, I feel like every single profession in this country needs to ask itself how you can contribute to building our community, to supporting those who are the most vulnerable. Because if it's one of those moments where, and it doesn't happen so often, but I feel like if we don't step in at this point, you waited this long for this moment to come. And if we are not stepping in right now or stepping up right now, we will see the impact of that, especially as it relates to American manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's an immense amount of talent here, as there is, in every country on earth. But it's just up to us to connect those dots and think of professions that probably don't exist right now, but we can imagine those, and if you can imagine all of the things that you're working with, right, in your professional life, you're so creative. Apply that same exact creativity to problem solving this job market,
Mm-hmm. Unconventional hiring, that's the term of
your profession. You're going to have to invent your profession, and it's going to be essential,
mm-hmm.
To how we pull out of this. So
we're just about at time, but would you please repeat that beautiful statement you just said about disbelief?
Willful suspension of disbelief.
Thank you. I'm going to write that down and put it right over my desk.
That's how I make work too. I'm like, for a moment, hold off what you know about the world. For a moment, let yourself, exist in an animation or whatever, things that don't exist,
I love that.
And it's hard. It's so hard to do it right now because we are all hurting, the lockdown, the income, the stability of the market, where, so many levels of uncertainty are there. But I think that thought I think that innovating in that and existing in that discomfort and innovation has been at the core of this country's, foundation, right? So we are reimagining how society is. We're reimagined a country, right? So we can, I don't know. I really hope so. I mean, and I hope that, and we're here, Cooperatives is here for any questions, any any resources we have. We're always here to support anyone who may want to replicate our model. And we're in the open source aspect of, in a business strategy. I mean, I don't know if businesses are open source, but we like to think of ourselves as an open source business.
That's wonderful. I mean, that is what the world needs right now.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for being with us today. And I just have to show my beautiful dish towels again from my new kitchen.
I love those.
I love them. The peach, they're beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Likewise,
Chitra.
means a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And love to Boston.
Yes, lots of love to San Diego. And to all of our guests, thank you for being here with us.
Likewise. Thank you.
And we'll see you soon. Thank you. Take care, everyone.